going to be a busy week for Baroness Evans, the leader of the House of Lords. The upper house once again finds itself making headlines for all the wrong reasons this morning, and on Tuesday the Brexit bill will reach the chamber for 2 days of debate. Let's speak now to Baroness Evans, who joins me from our central London studio. Baroness Evans, good to see you.
Good morning.
The EU Withdrawal Bill heads to the Lords this week. What are the chances it returns to the Commons in one piece?
Oh, I think there's every chance it will return to the Commons in one piece. The House of Lords has taken a very constructive role to the Brexit legislation we've had so far. I mean, for instance, we passed the Article 50 bill. Now, don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean we won't be having detailed debates, there won't be challenges, and the government has said we're very welcome. We will be listening to constructive suggestions, but we will get the bill through. I'm confident of that.
Well, it does seem likeliest that it's actually after the second reading that we're going to see the problems in the Lords, particularly on the Henry VIII powers, workers and fundamental rights, the devolved provisions affecting, Holyrood, amongst other places. Now, if their lordships act as they say they do and push on these amendments, I mean, there is precious little you can do about it.
Well, as I've said, we're expecting strong debate. I mean, the House of Lords is a scrutinising and revising chamber. That's its job. So the things you're describing is the Lords doing its job. I'm expecting a very constructive discussion, where the Lords come up with suggestions to improve the bill. The government have said we're willing to listen. And we've also said that we ourselves will be bringing forward amendments, particularly around, for instance, the devolved issues that you've mentioned. So I'm expecting long debates, detailed debates, but I'm also expecting a constructive attitude and the Lords to do its job. And of course, don't forget, even when the Lords passes amendments to the bill, it goes back to the Commons, who then have to think about whether they want to accept them or not.
I mean, you say that you're expecting a strong debate. You must also surely be expecting to lose on a number of votes, given the balance of the House.
Well, I'm not a defeatist, Neil. I'm going to go in hoping that the government's case will be won, hoping that we can persuade their lordships of our case. But as I've said, where there are constructive suggestions about improvements that need to be made to the bill, we will be ready to listen, and we will work with their lordships' House to make sure that this bill gets back to the Commons in an excellent state.
It sounds to me almost like you're conceding, Baroness Evans, that the state in which the bill has reached the upper house is not a fit state, that actually there are areas in which it could be improved, and you're simply going to have to accept that. Well,
as I've said, the government listened in the House of Commons. Amendments were made there. We've also said that we ourselves will be bringing forward amendments, and I certainly accept discussions to happen. I expect the bill to be amended. I'm clear about that. But what I also expect is that we will send the bill to the Commons in a good state, because what we all want, this bill is about ensuring that we have laws that work once we leave Brexit. We all want to make sure that our legal system is in the best state it can be, and we will all work together to achieve that.
But for all the talk of strong debate and talk of amendments that you've been mentioning, I mean, in essence, what you are saying is that the government's vision of Brexit, as espoused in the EU Withdrawal Bill, will not be the one that is returned from the upper chamber. I mean, if the Lords act as they say they will, to block your vision of Brexit, for that is what they are doing, I mean, how far would you go? Frank Field had an interesting suggestion on this programme the other week when he suggested, having the threat, the sword of Damocles of cutting hundreds of members of the upper house might be something that would compel them to vote in a more amenable fashion.
To be honest, we've heard all these speculations before. This was exactly what commentators said when we had the Article 50 bill. Oh no, the Lords will wreck it. Oh no, the Lords will behave unconstitutionally. That didn't happen. The Lords scrutinised the bill. We sent a couple of changes back to the Commons to consider, but the Commons said, thank you very much, House of Lords, but no, we want this bill in the state that we sent it. It came back to us, and the House of Lords did what it does, which is respect the primacy of the House of Commons.
You don't detect that you might be about to enter into a fairly lengthy game of parliamentary ping-pong on this particular issue?
Well, as I said, I know it's going to be a challenge. I'm not disputing that. But what I do believe is that the Lords will enter this in a constructive manner. We will have strong debate. I think the bill will be amended, but we will work with the House of Lords to make sure that a better bill arrives in the House of Commons. The House of Commons will then consider the changes the House of Lords have made, but it will be for them then to decide whether they want to accept them or whether they want to send the bill back to the House of Lords and say, thank you very much, but no. And the House of Lords will respect its role and will respect the primacy of the House of Commons, and we will ensure that we have a legal system that is fit for purpose on the day after we leave the EU, which is what we all want to work towards.
Just in terms of the possibility of reform of the House of Lords, I mean, it is pretty clear that it's in drastic need of it, isn't it? I mean, once again, we have a former MP, now ennobled, Andrew Lansley, is apparently selling his access to a Chinese firm. What on earth is he up to?
Well, we have very clear code of conduct in the House of Lords and very clear guidelines about what is acceptable and not acceptable behaviour. Andrew Lansley has referred himself to the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards, which is the right thing to do. She will investigate and we shall wait to see what the result of her investigation is. But on a regular basis, the House of Lords does an excellent job. I'm very proud to be the leader of the Lords, and I think we will show ourselves in a good light over the next few weeks when we scrutinise and revise very important legislation and make sure that we have a legal system fit for purpose for when we leave the EU.
Sure, but fair enough. Can we just focus on Andrew Lansley for just a second? Are we not at a point where it might just be an idea for our politicians not to take outside work when they're working either in the House of Commons or the House of Lords? I mean, what does it benefit us to have someone like Andrew Lansley, with the experience that he does, essentially selling his skill set to a foreign-based company?
Well, as I said, we have a very clear code of conduct in the House of Lords. We have very clear rules.
It doesn't appear to be clear enough,
have a register of
like this
interest.
continue to crop up.
Well, as I've said, we have very clear register of interest, we have a code of conduct, and as I said, the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards in the House of Lords will be looking into what happened. I am not privy to what conversations took place, but it will be investigated, and if action needs to be taken from there, it will.
Are you really the right person to be leading the charge in the House of Lords? I mean, your appointment last year took many of yours and my peers by surprise. Andrew Pearce quoted one saying, Evans is out of her depth, we need a big hitter with Brexit legislation. She was put there because she was Nick Timothy's chum. It's why her days are numbered. I mean, are you Nick Timothy's chum? Is that why you're there? Well,
thank you for your confidence, Neil. It's greatly appreciated. I actually think, if you don't mind me saying, I'm doing a good job in the House of Lords. I think I'm a different face to the House of Lords. I hope your viewers will double take when they see me and think, oh gosh, she's leader of the Lords, is she? We are a changing face. We are a revising chamber. I think I'm doing a good job, and I look forward to leading this bill through the Lords, and I look forward to the constructive discussions which will happen with my colleagues across the House.
We've become very fond in this show of asking what Labour's position on Brexit is this week. I mean, the Tories, we have to say, have become similarly all over the shop of late. I mean, you've got the Chancellor telling Davos this week that changes to the EU-UK relationship would be very modest. I mean, is that vision of Brexit that you'll be advocating in the Lords?
No, as the Prime Minister's been very clear and set out in her Florence speech our vision for our future relationship with the European Union, and we're looking forward to developing.
Let's be 100% clear. The Chancellor's wrong when he says that the changes to our relationship with the EU will be very modest.
We've been very clear about our relationship and future partnership with the EU. We want a strong and deep partnership, and that is what we will be working towards. But what I'm going to be focusing on in the House of Lords is making sure that we pass a bill that is very important to make sure there are no holes in our laws once we leave the EU. That is important work. It is work that the House of Lords will do it very well, I have no doubt, and I look forward to the weeks ahead.
I mean, it still sounds like you're saying that the Chancellor's wrong. I mean, another thing that's emerged in the papers today, your Brexit negotiators suggesting they're willing to have a longer transition period than 2 years. I mean, in what way is that delivering Brexit?
Well, again, the Prime Minister and indeed David Davis on Friday have been very clear once again. We do expect an implementation period, and we think it will be important because we want to make sure we give businesses and people certainty and to make sure we have one set of changes. And we've been very clear that that will be for a 2-year period.
Yeah, but so it's not going to be extended beyond oh, we appear to have lost you. No, you're back again. There we are. You're absolutely clear on this, that any suggestion that there'll be an extension to the transition period beyond 2 years is just not a flyer. It's not going to happen.
I'm sorry, I had a bit of a technical hitch during that question, so I didn't hear the whole question. But as I will repeat and say once again, we have said that we're anticipating a 2-year implementation period. The Prime Minister's been clear about, and David Davis once again reiterated that on Friday.
Can we turn to the Director of Public Prosecutions for a second, Alison Saunders? Now, as you'll be very well aware, she's ordered a review of all rape and serious sexual assault cases to see if there are any problems with disclosure of evidence. She expects, even ahead of this review, that there will be a number of cases that will have to be halted because of the problems with disclosure. That's an absolute disgrace, isn't it? Well, who's at fault? The CPS or the police? What's
absolutely important is that people have confidence in our justice system. That's what we all want to work for. We'll have to see what happens with this review. But what we don't want are miscarriages of justice, and we don't want victims to also not be served by the system. So it's absolutely an important balance to be taken right, and I think we need to make sure we look into this to ensure that we can and the public do have confidence in our justice system. Our legal system is one of the best in the world.
You don't need to look into it, though. I mean, there was a report produced by the CPS Inspectorate back in July of 2017 which said the process of recording details of sensitive material is routinely poor. The revelation by police to the prosecutor of material that may undermine the prosecution case or assist the defence case is rare. The standards falls below any acceptable standard of performance. That was 7 months ago. There is no need for a review. The problems with disclosure have been well known, and there are most likely people in prison right now who should not be.
Well, I'm not going to speculate on that. I don't feel I can. But what I can assure your viewers is that we take all these issues extremely seriously. My colleague David Gork will be looking into this very carefully, and we will be looking.
This very problem for 7 months. How is that taking it seriously?
Well, we are taking it very seriously. We do not want to see miscarriages of justice, but we also want to make sure that victims have a fair system with which to go through. That is what we're working towards, and we will be working with the legal profession, with the police, with the CPS, to make sure that the public can rightly have confidence in our justice system, because that's what we all want to achieve.
I mean, I'll say it again. The problems regarding disclosure, not simply in rape cases and serious sexual abuse cases, but across the board, have been known now for many years and have been identified by the Inspectorate since July of last year. So whose fault is this? Is it the police? Is it the CPS? Or is it a succession of Justice Secretaries, Conservative ones at that?
Well, I don't think me casting around aspersions is going to help anyone. It's not going to help the victims of miscarriages of justice, and it's not going to help victims who actually want to bring their case forward. What we need to do is move forward. We need to make sure that the public have confidence in our justice system, and that is what we're all working towards.
Baroness Evans, lovely to speak to you. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.